Welcome, everybody, to the Going Broadway podcast and what I'm calling Super September. That's right. If you have seen our social media posts, excuse me, every podcast during the month of September, we're going to be doing some free giveaways. So that being said, you're going to have to stick around and find out what's happening with that. But speaking of what's happening, Cole, what's happening?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We have a great show in store for you this morning, and there, as always, is plenty to talk about. So,
indeed. So right off the bat, again, stick around with us. You'll have to just find out what Super September is going to look like as far as our free giveaways. I'm not going to spoil anything right now. You'll just have to watch and see and find out. So we're going to be having a lot of fun on today's podcast. We're going to be having a lot of fun for the entire month of September. I do want to start off the show with a little bit of a downer, I guess. So thoughts and prayers out to what I would say are two of the best current wrestlers out there in the world right now. So Will Ospreay, found out this morning he has COVID-19. Doesn't appear to be serious at the moment. They're actually still advertising him for a big Rev Pro show in a few weeks. But I will say more seriously, I guess, former Ring of Honor champion Roosh is actually in serious condition right now. I don't know if you've heard this or not. So he had to have emergency surgery yesterday. It's not been disclosed exactly what's going on or what happened. But as of a post I read this morning from someone in his family said he's still in serious condition, and there's going to be some kind of a press conference today to let us know what's going on. So,
wow,
not sure exactly what the deal is, but again, hoping for the best. Thoughts and prayers out to both of them, as well as anybody else dealing with any kind of sickness or COVID-19. I know a friend of the show, Andrew Boehner, is going through some things right now. So thoughts and prayers out to him for a speedy recovery. But Andrew is joining us live this morning. So that being said, let's see who else we got on here. Jeremy, good morning. Billy Ray Milburn, good morning. That was Jeremy Stoneberger. We have Jeremy Pickering on here. Good morning. Mark, good morning. Andrew, there he is. Good morning. David Tilley, Bruce Jackson, Anna Millette, Brian Griffin, Bonnie Pearson, our buddy Chris Poshek. I'm sorry, I know I'm mispronouncing your last name, but remind me again, and I promise I'll try to do better in pronouncing your name going forward. So, we're going to be talking about a lot of fun things, a lot of, it's going to be a fun week in wrestling, but let's backtrack a little bit and just get this out of the way and talk about the dumpster fire that was Raw this past week. So, first off, how many matches that were promoted and advertised ahead of time did we get?
0.
We got 0 matches that were advertised ahead of time for Monday Night Raw. And you guys know me, I don't yell, hoop, and holler too much, but they advertised, I think, three matches ahead of time. We got none of them.
0.
Now, granted, I will say this. We got a really good United States title match, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And 100% agree with the booking. It does appear Drew McIntyre, they're probably going to move him over to SmackDown. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take a couple more L's in the future, because usually that's what happens if someone's going to be transitioning brands. They take the losses going out the door. Besides that, just 2.5 hours of hot garbage.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm sure most of us read the article about how Vince McMahon was like severely angry about the script all the way up until about 6 p.m. that evening.
6 p.m. 2 hours before. No.
An hour.
An hour before showtime.
An hour before showtime.
That goes to show how much I don't watch Raw is because I've still got it in my head that Raw starts at 8 o'clock. Central Time, that is.
Like, legitimately, he was frustrated to the point that he was ripping up. They said that it was the longest day ever from the creative team. Like, it was so bad. And so I will say this. For whatever reason, if Vince McMahon is ripping up a script that much, what they had for those 3 matches must have been even worse than what we got. Like, I have to believe that if it was, we advertised these matches ahead of time, so they obviously had a plan for all 3 matches. And instead, Vince McMahon comes in and rips them up more than once. That means that there was something that wasn't sitting right. Point blank, point period, the whole thing. Now, the problem is when you rip everything up all the way until 6 o'clock, you can't expect that show to go good. Like, I think the Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, Sheamus, like, 3-way United States match was like an apology to us. Like, hey, we know the rest of the show is going to be, like, so bad. So we're going to give you this one match that is, like, we would never normally give this to you on a Monday night.
We're going to give you a banger of a match that would be on a pay-per-view.
Right.
Because the rest of the night is going to be hot garbage.
Like John Morrison versus Omos. Like, I was like, where did that even come from? Like, it was, like, out of left field.
And not that I'm a fan of his, but where was Miz? No explanation whatsoever.
Right. Wasn't there. Didn't see nothing. Like, so I'm just kind of watching it, and I'm kind of thinking, after, like, reading how much they had ripped the script up and all this stuff, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I was like, now that I know that they didn't really have an actual script until 6 p.m. that night, like
1 hour before showtime.
Like, legitimately, I'm sitting here like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like,
let's talk about the atrocity that was the Charlotte Nia Jax match. I mean, everything about that from beginning to end.
And not just her. It was both of them.
Oh, it was both of them. 100% both of them. It wasn't just Nia.
Both terrible. That was the worst Charlotte Flair match I think I've ever seen. And maybe it's one of those, you wrestle to the level of your opponent. You know, one of the, you know, I remember times in high school when we played basketball, we played down to our opponents sometimes when we were clearly a better team than what we were playing as. It could have been one of those things where if there's no chemistry and or the person you're wrestling with can't really do a whole lot effectively very well, you know, you kind of wrestle down. But there was like 3 moments in the match where I was like, that was Charlotte's fault. Like,
oh, yeah.
Charlotte was like barely moving in certain spots where she was supposed to be moving quick. And I almost thought she like tore something because I was like, you're not moving. Like, you're literally almost like halfway doing this match in a sense, like you don't even want to be doing the match. And there was the scary like power bomb or whatever you want to call it spot.
I don't know what that was, but where Nia just lifts Charlotte up and she just practically lands on the back of her neck and her shoulder. One of the most reckless things I've ever seen any wrestler do from the time that I started watching wrestling. That was just. And I get it at this point, they're probably both ticked off at each other for, you know, from what I've read, it was a lot of miscommunication that maybe they're supposed to do a shoot fight. Maybe they weren't. Maybe there was a lack of communication that was getting both of them frustrated. So they legit started, you know, they started throwing real punches. They started swinging for real. I don't know, but you don't do that. I mean, especially like let's face it. As much as people, I will say, rip on Charlotte, warranted or not, she is one of the top women's wrestlers of all time when it comes to in-ring ability.
Yep.
I would even go as far as to say, even on the mic, she's gotten a lot better. I don't know if she's one of the best of all time, but I'd probably put her top 10, at least mic skills. Now, that aside, not to mention merch as well.
Right.
I mean, so if you're Nia Jax, I mean, I don't care who you are relatives with. I don't care who you know. It's not okay. Now, that being said, to your point, Charlotte was just as much as fault in this match as well.
It was a bad match, and that spot, I'll even say this, though. In that spot that was very scary, It looked like it was both their faults, though. I know Nia kind of released her pretty hard, but the way that Charlotte went up, like there were parts to that were on Charlotte's fault too. She kind of set herself up in a sense, in my opinion, to have that happen to her because of the way that they were doing the match in general. It was a lazy match. It was a very bad match. I actually had some high hopes for this match in a sense because I was like, you know what? Charlotte's an experienced worker. She's going to know how to make Nia look good. And it was actually the opposite. It was like, man, they made themselves look bad. Not Nia made them look bad. They made themselves look bad. And I'm just kind of like, you know, if you're WWE, like, Shayna should be the one wrestling Charlotte.
100% agree.
For the title right now because they need to, like, do a split and get Nia out of this title picture. The match at Extreme Rules will be terrible. It will be we just got a taste on Raw of what they could do in the basics. If they can't put on a decent basic match, what makes you think they're going to be able to put on anything exciting in an Extreme Rules type environment where they're going to do, someone mentioned that the rumor is a pit fight, but they can't do a regular fight right. So why would you put them in a gimmick match if they can't do that right? And so I would pull the reins back on this really quick.
Two things real quick. Brian Griffin, Charlotte's not trying to get fired.
No.
I don't think this was a case of that. I don't think she's trying to get fired. I don't know what her contract is like. She's never leaving WWE. She's another Brock Lesnar. She's another Roman Reigns. That she's WWE, no pun intended, for life. You know, she's not going to go anywhere. Now, that being said, I was going to say something I totally blanked. You're going to say something too. Maybe I'll think of it.
Well, I'm just saying this.
Oh, I thought of it, but go ahead.
Even if you look at, and we'll get into this a little bit later, how Ric Flair handled himself at NWA, you're never going to see a Flair badmouth the business that puts you on the map. And so and you're not going to put yourself in a position to be in bad terms with them. So even if Charlotte did decide at some point she wanted to go and test herself out in other promotions and whatnot, she's not gonna ruin a door that she's gonna eventually come back to. She's gonna be in the WWE Hall of Fame. She's gonna be a part of this company legacy as far as the women's revolution and what they've done for years to come. She's not gonna ruin what she's built there. She's a 12-time women's champ, technically a 14-time if you want to count NXT titles. She's the most decorated probably women's wrestler they have. Period. She knows that she's not going to, not to mention, it would really hurt her if it came out that she was that way going into other promotions.
100%.
So,
and Rick even said, Rick did a podcast on Renee Paquette's podcast. He did that this past week, and he even said on there that Charlotte's the happiest she's ever been, so she's not going to go anywhere. Now, all of this aside, last week, it looked like Alexa Bliss was going to be in the title picture. She was in Oklahoma City, but did not appear on Raw. Again, no explanation. What? Like, Alexa Bliss is probably... listen. I think they need to drop this whole gimmick and have her go back to her old persona or whatever. Credit to her, she's making it work. I don't hate it. I would just prefer if they just did away with it altogether because it's like, and I get the merch aspect, you know, the Lily dolls and this and that, whatever. But she's also, in my opinion, far more talented than Nia Jax. I would say in terms of the entire work scope, maybe that's not the right word, but when you factor in just in-ring ability, mic skills, just intangibles that you bring, I think she's more talented and would be more over in this spot than Shayna Baszler would. Where is she? No explanation as to what's going on. It almost seemed like going into Raw this past Monday, they had an idea of what they wanted to do in terms of multiple storylines, and then they just decided we're going to go in a different direction with everything. Like all of their creative, it just almost seemed like it went out the window. Not just the script with Raw. It almost just seemed like they decided to go in a different direction entirely because it looked like we were going to see a program with Sheamus and Lashley, But now from what I'm reading, Randy Orton's going to get that spot. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Speaking on Alexa Bliss, I mean, I would say she's probably in their top 10 women's that they should be having prominent spots and whatnot. She's found a way to get herself over in every gimmick and every storyline she's been in. She's probably the most underutilized woman on their roster as far as actually making her a viable contender for the belt. She's a 3-time, 4-time champion though. Like she's won it.
Oh, look what
at least twice. I know for sure, but I'm not a big fan of the gimmick. I think they could get rid of it and she'd still be just as over and sell just as much merch and all of that stuff. But
she is 5-time champion. She's won the Raw title 3 times, SmackDown title twice, as well as the Women's Tag Team Championship twice.
Yeah, there's no reason why she shouldn't have been in this title spot with Charlotte, even if she wasn't going to win. Maybe they're holding off on that for her to be the person that beats Charlotte at some point. But to speak on just their creative in general, Randy's a face, Sheamus wasn't. I could kind of understand the switcheroo there that you didn't want to have 2 heels fighting each other.
Understood.
And feeling like that it wasn't going to be well received. Because let's be honest, no one wants to cheer for Sheamus and no one wants to cheer for Bobby. So when
I'll cheer for Lashley.
We would, but I'm saying it wouldn't be as well received as they're going to receive Randy and cheering for Randy. And that's where I think the switcheroo came for that. Same with, kind of thinking about doing Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. Like, if we're going to get that one-on-one or not. Like, I think it really puts Damian Priest in a bad spot because people are going to want to cheer for Drew, but Damian Priest is the champion and is supposed to be the face and getting the push and all these things. So it kind of seems like they had a plan, and after they sat down and thought about it, they really didn't plan very well.
No kidding.
The initial plans weren't good, and now you have what I would consider a pay-per-view that's going to be very heavy in the gimmick side of matches, and you don't really have the matches on the Raw side, I would say. SmackDown, I think they're in a good spot. On the Raw side of things, I don't think that they're in a very good spot, because they kind of went directions, and then they're like, oh, we didn't think about the fact that Extreme Rules was next. Like, what are we going to do? Put Bobby Lashley and Sheamus in an Extreme Rules match for the title? That'd be an absolutely terrible match. I'm just going to be real. That would be a terrible Extreme Rules match. Randy Orton versus Bobby Lashley in Extreme Rules match, a little bit different. Randy Orton has shown in the past that he can do those kind of matches and make them entertaining, and he has that vicious side to him and whatnot. You also can have Riddle at ringside and bring a little bit of comedic relief if you wanted to. So there are other options, obviously, but I don't think it was the right timing for some of the matches that they were trying to put together.
I don't know, but
I agree with the shift, I'm saying, as far as not doing what they were trying to do. Other than the Miz and Morrison thing, I think they should have had that on Raw or something to do with that. But I'm not really upset with the shift.
I'm not either.
But you would have thought that you would at least have explained why those matches didn't happen. It was almost like they had the Raw and was just like, yeah, we never said anything. Like, this is actually what we're doing. Like, you would think it's like, oh, you know what? It was supposed to be Miz versus Morrison this week, right?
Yeah.
Have Miz cut a promo and saying, you know what? I'm not going to be there this week, but I got you a replacement. Here comes Omos. Yeah. What was it? The women's match that was announced. Wasn't there a women's match? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember all the matches that were announced.
So you had
Miz and Morrison.
You had Sheamus and Lashley.
And
you at least had one more, and I can't think of what it was.
Was it Drew and Damian?
No, I don't think. Because I think I think that was it was the Open US
title match. Okay.
Well, the Open Challenge or whatever. Okay. But I thought there was another announced match that just completely didn't happen.
I mean, even Bobby Lashley just getting on the mic and saying, you know what, Sheamus, you don't deserve to wrestle me one-on-one.
Something.
Like just a little nudge would have been nice to be like, you know what, like, instead of just acting like we didn't say this and we didn't promote it and have graphics and everything on air, we're going to be like, you know what, we're going to have people cut some promos or a vignette or something that will explain why.
Something. I totally agree with you. I don't mind the shift when it comes to creative. Poorly executed, though, in my opinion.
What about Dewdrop turning on Eva Marie? What about it?
Who cares?
Like, I absolutely hate the gimmick. I hate the name. I hate the whole thing's terrible.
I hate both of them.
The whole. It doesn't even need to be on TV. Like it is unless this is a build.
Much less SummerSlam. Again, you had Eva Marie on SummerSlam, but yet you couldn't find a place for Kevin Owens or Cesaro or your newly crowned Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura.
I think Kevin Owens is hurt.
Whatever the case may be,
because he was on commentary, he kind of looks like he's about to do a Samoa Joe thing for a little while.
So here's the last thing I'm going to say about it, and we can move on. People on social media were just like, well, card subject to change. That doesn't apply to this. Card subject to change, you still get a storyline explanation, maybe even the real explanation if somebody is injured, if somebody has COVID, if they're sick, if they're on some sort of like bereavement leave or whatever. Explain it in storyline and don't just leave it out there. Just no explanation. We advertise Miz and Morrison, but you're actually going to get Omos versus Morrison.
Which, like, I would have loved if Miz got on there and just did, like, a little video thing. If he wasn't even there, like, if something happened, he couldn't be there, and that's why they had to pull the plug on that match. Whatever the case may be, at least have him just cut a video real quick and be like, you know what? You don't deserve, John, I've carried you this entire time. You don't deserve this match with me, but I did find a replacement, or you know what? I kind of re-injured this injury that I was, faking or whatever. I kind of re-injured this thing, so I found a replacement for me. I'm home nursing it,
Or even if Miz wasn't available, you could have Morrison get on the mic and basically just say, something.
He doesn't want to show up, he beats me down, turns on me, and then runs like a coward, and then have almost an AJ come out and cut a promo.
Morrison's like, I'm here for a match. Somebody come out. Why couldn't we have gotten Morrison against AJ?
That's true too. Like, it was interesting that it was almost versus.
Like, I'm just okay. I'm done. Okay, so the rest of the show is going to be a lot more fun, a lot less yelling, a lot less ranting. So that being said, who do you have for Wrestler of the Week?
My Wrestler of the Week. Sorry, I just thought it'd be funny to yell. Actually, we're going to talk about this right afterwards. My Wrestler of the Week goes to Trevor Murdoch. And I figured you'd probably say the same thing. I don't think there's...
I wasn't going to say him.
What? All right, so we'll talk about it. Trevor Murdoch, new NWA champion. It was actually a really great match. We'll talk about it, but I went with good old Trevor Murdoch.
So I had trouble picking one out this week. But inevitably I went with Damian Priest.
Oh, okay. I could see that.
Oddly enough, after we just ripped on the 2 hours and 40 minutes of Raw, that other 20 minutes was a super fantastic match. I know that we kind of joke around about Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez and their ratings and this and that, but I am also always interested to see how he rates matches, especially when it comes to WWE. Even more so when it's on Raw or SmackDown, or if it's on NXT. If it's outside of a pay-per-view or outside of a special, Saudi event or whatever. So I'm curious to see how he rates this, but I probably, if I had, we should institute the GBP star system. I'm just going to officially start that today. So going forward with pay-per-view matches, and I literally just decided this on the fly. I know we've kind of done like match grades, which we can still do that too, but I want to give matches a star system if we feel like that they surpassed. So if we're going on I guess Meltzer's system is technically going from -5 stars to 5 stars, or actually 5 stars and then some. If we feel like a match was 4 stars or better, we'll kind of give it our rating whenever we do pay-per-view recaps. If I were to give this a certain amount of stars, I probably would have given this 4.5 stars. I mean, I was super impressed with the match. It was the best match I've seen on Raw in a while. I know that I think it was it Orton and Riddle that had a really good match recently. No, it was McIntyre and Riddle, I think.
Yeah, they had a good one
within
too.
the last couple months.
I will say Raw has pretty much usually had at least one match that was like, okay, that was decent. And I think that's the complaint about Raw right now is that Raw has only one match out of the 2 hours that is somewhat decent. So
and you have to sit through the rest for the most part, because usually they'll conclude the night with that match, but
it's either middle of the card or at the end.
Yeah,
typically.
Moving right along. So, like Cole mentioned, we're going to recap a pay-per-view that wasn't WWE or AEW or NXT. So, Cole said he actually watched all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I watched I watched the majority, if not all, of 3 matches and then bits and pieces here and there. So Cole can help me with the overall gist of most of these matches. Now, granted, a lot of these names I don't know, Cole doesn't know, but nonetheless, we'll recap it for you. Now, this was the return to Wrestling at the Chase here in the local St. Louis area. I did look at the tickets when they went on sale. I thought they were a little overpriced, in my opinion, especially given the nature of where NWA is, and nothing was announced for the card at the time, and that's neither here nor there. So all that to say, we did not go. But like I said, in Cole's case, he watched all of it. I watched some of it. So let's take a look at it. They actually had a couple of pre-show matches. Were these on the pay-per-view? I don't think they were. I mean, hence pre-show, but...
what was the match?
So the first pre-show match says Lady Frost and... No, okay. Well, we'll recap them real quick. So Lady Frost and new NWA Women's Tag Team Champions Allison Kay and Marty Bell defeated Genocide, Paola Mayfield, and Taryn Terrell in a match that went 5 minutes and 7 seconds. A 6-woman tag match that went 5 minutes. That averages to what? Maybe a minute of ring time for each?
Yeah.
Anyway. And this is not going to be super in-depth. I'm literally just going
I
down
didn't
the
even
card.
know these happened.
The other pre-show match was PJ Hawks defeating Colby Carino in a match that went about 7 minutes. So then the first match on the main card, Tim Storm defeats Tom Latimer and Crimson in a Brawl in the Lou match that went a little over 9 minutes. Super impressed with this match. I thought this might have been match of the night.
I enjoyed it. I don't think it was match of the night.
No, I'm saying it could have been. I thought this match actually could have and should have went longer.
I enjoyed. First off, there wasn't a whole lot announced for this card. When Tim Storm came out, I was like, "Oh snap! Okay, like he's gonna."
I know who this guy is.
He's gonna do this. I was like, and they announced the kind of match. I was like, "Dang!" Like he signed up to do this big. And I like Crimson. I followed him back when he was in Impact and enjoyed him in Impact. And why am I blanking on the other person in this match?
Tom Latimer.
Tom Latimer, who was
Bram.
I enjoyed him back when he was in Impact as well. So
he was in NXT as well.
For a short little period.
For a minute.
So I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a great match. I kind of liked, Crimson getting attacked at the beginning of it. Kind of took him out of the match for a minute. He came back out. We had some good spots. I was actually pleasantly surprised, though, that they gave the win to Tim Storm. But
I was too.
Especially the spot he took with the guardrail off the ladder.
Oh man,
that was absolutely insane. That was a great opener. I'll say this, great way to open up the pay-per-view. I was very impressed with it.
Not to mention, friend of the show, our buddy Conrad Thompson was actually on commentary for the first couple matches. Second match was Mickie James against Kylie Ray. Mickie got the win in a match that went about 5.5 minutes.
This was more to set up the Deonna Purrazzo Mickie James feud than it was anything else.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was kind of underwhelmed with this match, and I didn't have a ton of expectations going into it. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I know both names. I mean, Kylie Ray was with AEW briefly. She was with Impact briefly, so it's not like she's someone that we don't know.
It was I'll say this, it was a little weird. So I actually watched Empower as well the night before, and Kylie Ray was on that card, and she played a really like more heavy face, like baby face.
Yeah.
That night, and then in this match, she was kind of playing this
almost tweener kind of.
like a tweener. Yeah, she had some heel-like moments, and was kind of being a little cocky and stuff, trying to get Mickey over. I think again. And now after the match, she came back and did her face thing, and kind of took care of Mickey. But I was just kind of like, that's an interesting way to book the same person in the same weekend. That surely they could have had somebody else come out and fight Mickey, but obviously for name value, they were trying to have some decent names on there. So the match was okay, but I think it was more to set up the Deonna Purrazzo thing, which I'm not sure how I feel about yet. I don't know how well Mickey and Deonna are going to do in a match together, but we'll see. I will say I'm very impressed with Deonna. She's killing it, but
and her appearance wasn't all that big of a surprise. I mean, she wrestled on Empower. She retained the Impact Women's Championship against Melina the night before.
Right.
So it wasn't like it was this big shocker. I mean,
if you watch Impact, they've been teasing this already.
Oh, yeah.
Like just the promos and stuff. I knew it was coming. So,
well, we haven't specifically said post-match, Deonna came down in all black garb, masked and everything, started to be off, and like you said, set up the future feud match, etc.
I was actually kind of hoping it wasn't Deonna, knowing it was her. I was kind of hoping it was going to be another woman that we haven't seen in a minute, whoever that was going to be. I didn't really care. I was just kind of hoping it was going to be like a surprise.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit more predictable, but
so the next 4 matches I've either seen bits and pieces of, or to be honest, I've not seen any of it. So you're going to have to help me out with the rest of these, or at least the next 4. So Tyrus, Masked Man, and Jordan Clearwater defeats the Pope and the tag team called The End in a 6-man tag that went about 13 minutes. I only saw bits and pieces of it, but what I saw just didn't.
Any match, I'll say this.
It didn't seem to click.
It's unfortunate because I like some of the people in this match. I like the Pope. I liked the Pope version of ECW. I liked him when he was Pope De Niro in Impact. That was actually where I really came to like him, was because I loved the gimmick. I like him. I'm glad he's wrestling. I'm glad he's into NWA. I was excited for this match. I like Tyrus.
We all love Brodus Clay.
But I'll say a lot of the matches he's in, you can't expect him to be the one that carries. And he needed to be one that carried in this match, though.
Yeah.
And he just really wasn't doing that for me. The Masked Man gimmick, I haven't liked it since they started it. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know who's under the mask. I think eventually they'll share who it is, but I'm not a fan of the mask gimmick. This was probably the match on the card that I would have said go use the bathroom. Like, I hate to say that because, again, I like the Pope. The End kind of is like the Viking Raiders. They're kind of the same kind of tag team, in my opinion. A little bit smaller of guys, but same kind of gist. Maybe like a mix between the Ascension and the Viking Raiders, like somewhere in between there. So I was like, kind of like, hey, I kind of want to see more of these guys. I like the name, The End, like that. I like the tag name. That they looked somewhat impressive. So I was kind of disconnected, though, would definitely be the word.
The next match on the card was Chris Adonis, formerly known as Chris Masters in WWE, retains the NWA National Championship over James Storm. The match went about 14 minutes. Again, this was a match I actually didn't see any of.
Really good.
It was a good match.
I'll
go back.
I would have argued that this would have been probably in the contention for match of the night.
Okay.
If you're gonna talk Tim Storm, I would say I could see that one, this one, and then obviously the main event. But this was a good match. James Storm, those two both know how to wrestle. They both know how to put on an entertaining match. It was a fun one to watch.
Does he still do the Master Lock?
Yeah.
What does he call it?
I'm still pretty sure they call it the Masterpiece.
Interesting.
I don't think it was ever. If you remember, though, if you remember correctly, at the time that WWE was that had him, he really wasn't ever a big star for them. He was always kind of mid He might have been in the title picture once or twice, knowing he was never going to win.
I think the closest he got to the title picture was they did an elimination chamber with him, Carlito, Shawn Michaels, a few other, I think Cena.
He kind of got to be like in the edge of the top card, but never was their guy. I don't think they thought they would need to what's the word, trademark and put his stuff on the shelf. So
the next match was actually a battle royal to determine the number one contender for the national championship. This went about 20 minutes. So is his name pronounced
Judias?
Judias. Okay, that's last eliminated JTG. I'm not going to go through everyone else that was in the match. Looks like there were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
13.
8, 9, 10, 13 guys. Okay.
It was announced as a 12-man. Judias came out at the very end as a 13th mystery opponent.
Okay. And, of course, he gets the win.
And he had his name? Father Mitchell or whatever his name is
that guy.
As his manager. I don't know who this dude is. I was trying to, look him up because he's a big dude. If you're with Father Mitchell, usually you have, a dark persona. There used to be a guy that was in NXT that was also Father Mitchell's guy. His name was Judas. Was it Judas?
Something. I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name. Here's what's interesting about this Judias guy. His real name is Michael Cole.
Oh, really?
Here's another interesting factor. He was in TNA. He went by Murphy in TNA.
Murphy. See, I'm trying to picture this guy, because I feel like I should know who he is. When he came out, I was like, that should be a noticeable dude. I don't know who this guy is, but I'll be honest with you, I was unimpressed with him in the match. He's a big dude that didn't really do a whole lot. They kind of just utilized the fact that he was this big dude as the reason why he won. I really, honestly, after watching the match, I really thought that JTG should have won this match. He was the most entertaining part of the match. He had some really good spots. There was another guy, I don't know who he is, but he was kind of a stockier black dude. He was really dope in the match, too. I would have probably been running for one of those two with the spots and things that they did in the match. This guy kind of won. It is what it is. The Battle Royal was all right. It had some moments in that were good, but it was all right. I wasn't, extremely impressed, but it was decent.
So, just one second. Oh, that's what I need to do. I need to go back to the right. There it is. Okay, so the next match was actually set up the night before. So the night before, Chelsea Green won an NWA Women's Invitational Gauntlet match. And by virtue of that, got an NWA Women's title match against Camille. However, Camille won the match. This match went about 12 and a half minutes. Same thing, I didn't watch any of this match.
It was good. I think they made the wrong booking decision on this.
Really?
I think they should have had Chelsea Green go ahead and get the W and put the belt on her. I got to change the word. I was going to say she's hot right now. Not from a physical attraction standpoint. She's a very attractive woman, but she's she's
over.
She's over. In Impact, and she could go to AEW if she wanted to, and people are going to cheer for her. We talked about this when she got released. I thought she was going to be one of the hot commodities coming out of the WWE release because she's got enough TV time on there. She was known in the indies. She's booming right now, and I think that would have just helped NWA more if she was holding the belt. No disrespect to Camille because she can put on a decent match, but I think it would have been the only reason why they didn't do it. Obviously, is because there was a major title change that was happening already that night. But I was kind of like, probably would have made sense to have Chelsea Green win this match, but. Nonetheless, it was a good match. It was decent.
Andrew, I don't understand your comment, but that's okay.
It's probably because I shake my knee. I don't know if you can tell that, but
I don't think so. Okay. Nonetheless, the next match I saw bits and pieces of. La Rebellion, I guess that's how you pronounce it, defeated Aaron Stevens, also known or formerly known as Damian Sandow, and J.R. Kratos, winning the NWA World Tag Team Championship. Again, I only saw bits and pieces, didn't watch all of it. From what I saw, it looked didn't look bad.
It was good. They had Conan come out with La Rebellion. So there was that kind of nostalgic feel to that. He got involved in the match a lot as well. I liked the match. I've never seen La Rebellion a whole lot. Like, I don't watch the product that much to know a whole lot about them.
Right.
Obviously, I know Aaron Stevens, I liked him as Damian Sandow back when he was with WWE. So I was kind of like, hey, this is kind of cool. I getting to watch some of this.
I almost feel like, not to get off topic, I almost feel like Damian Sandow was almost the first of the wave of people that WWE just really missed out on.
Missed out on him from
one of the first, maybe not the first.
From a mic and gimmick standpoint, he knows how to get over.
Yeah.
So I'll give him that. He's not the greatest in the ring. Never has been.
No, but
neither was The Miz at first, so they're
neither
and even
is
then, Miz is not necessarily the greatest in-ring performer. He's just got an overall thing that comes with him that makes him fun to watch and be invested in. I think Damian Sandow or Aaron Stevens now, has those same qualities. He's not phenomenal in the ring, but he has all the other qualities that it just makes you fun to watch him and be invested in him.
Right.
And so the match was good. I'm actually kind of glad La Rebellion got the win, though, because they were definitely the better wrestlers in the match. So it was a good match to watch. I enjoyed it.
And I really like the cool vignettes that they would post on Twitter, like the old school, I don't know what I only saw 2 of them. Maybe they only did 2 of them, but they did old school type interviews where these guys, it was like, one was like all black and white, as if it were from like the 40s or something like that. Then they did another one that was supposed to be like set in the 60s that they basically teased that they had held these tag team championships for like 20 years or something silly like that. But it was entertaining. So the last match, Trevor Murdoch actually getting the win over Nick Aldis, ending Aldis's 1,000-plus day reign as NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. This match went about 16 and a half minutes. I did watch all of this match, and I know you said it was a good match. I don't know to the degree you're putting. I don't know the degree you're using the word good. I actually thought this match was slow. I didn't care for it. It wasn't bad. It was a standard wrestling match, but a lot of it, and I get it. A lot of it is Trevor Murdoch. He has a different wrestling style and work set that really doesn't complement Nick Aldis a whole lot. So they made it work. But I actually, we haven't been doing grades, which is fine. But if I had to give this match a grade, I probably would give it a C+. I personally thought it was average. And that's all I'm going to say. I was going to jump the gun on something, but that's all I'm going to say.
I loved it. I wouldn't go and say it, was a match of the year candidate by any means or anything like that. I think what I loved about it is one, the tribute in a sense to Harley Race. That they were very big on using Harley Race's name for this and bringing honor to him, especially with them being back at the Chase.
Right.
So I liked that this was, actually advertised as career versus title match.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, it's cool because what people. So I was like, man, either way, this is a win for Trevor, because either you're going to retire in front of your hometown at the Chase, back at the Chase, after several years, like that's a dope moment. His family was in the crowd, or you're going to win the title in front of your hometown. Never been a world champion, never had that opportunity in any of the other companies he's worked for. So to win it in your hometown this late in your career, to be able to say you were able to accomplish that, hold the belt that your hero, a mentor of yours, held. The guy that brought him into NWA, to be able to have that honor, that was kind of cool. I liked the brawl before the match when they went out into the crowd. I thought that was cool that they gave the crowd that little spot. But I kind of liked some of the teases. There was some teases in the match of Trevor getting, losing, also Trevor winning. I kind of liked how they did the match. It felt very classical for me. And I think that's why I enjoyed it, is that it wasn't this whole we need to put on these big spots so the crowd will love it. It was more like, let's get back to when we were on Channel 11 and, there was just the punches going back and forth and, oh, he's punching him, he's punching, and it just felt very classical, and I think that was their goal. I think Nick and Trevor had sat down and said, how can we kind of get back to the roots of NWA with this match? If I'm going to drop the title, how can we do it in a way that's like, we're back at the chase, we're back where our roots are, we're back, we're doing this with the Hardly Race name on it. How can we kind of keep this classical? And so I don't think it needed to be like a bunch of flashy, type moves and matches and all this stuff.
I'm not saying that.
I enjoyed it. I think if I was to give it a grade, I'd be sitting in like the B- B+ area as far as match. But more or less, I was just really happy that Trevor got the win. I thought if I had to pick someone to beat Nick Aldis's record, I would want it to be an NWA guy. At this point, I don't want to see any Forbidden Door matches where he loses it to somebody else.
Sure.
And I thought that the way they built this story, because this story's been building for months. This has not been like we put it together a month ago.
Yeah, the storytelling's been phenomenal on it.
It's probably
been
a year.
It's been close.
Probably been a year that they've been building this. So I just thought it was phenomenal storytelling, a great build-up. And if I'm going to give it to somebody, I'm going to give it to someone who's been working his butt off his whole life, never had that shot, and he's brought a lot of honor and integrity to the business. So I was happy that Trevor got the win. I don't know how long he'll hold it.
Well, let's talk about that. So real quick, you guys know that you've watched this show before. I'm very much an old school fan, so I get how the match was booked, and I don't know if the spots were worked out ahead of time, if they had the entire match planned, if they had some of it or none of it. However it went down, I get that we weren't going to see anything flashy that, like Jeffrey said, it was an old school NWA match. 100% on board with that. I still feel like I think they still could have had an old school NWA feel type match and it'd be better than it was. I just feel like and this is just my opinion. I think that the styles didn't really complement each other.
Right.
So let's talk about the duration of his reign, what we think it's going to look like. Just right off the bat, I'm going to answer that with another question. What happens with Nick Aldis from here? Does he stay with NWA? Because if so, if Nick Aldis is staying, I don't see this being a long reign. I think, like Jamie said, they did it for a quick pop. I don't know if that might be a bit extreme, but I think he might be right in concept. It might have been done for the home crowd, and he might drop it back to Nick at their next pay-per-view event. The only way I see this being a lengthy reign is if Nick Aldis actually leaves NWA, which I don't think is happening because they literally just brought Mickie James on board.
So let me answer both. The first one is this. How long does Trevor Murdoch hold the belt? I really do think he's transitional, but not back to Nick Aldis.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, who won the Battle Royale? There's Judas. They were kind of real big on him. He's this big body. He's not facing Nick Aldis, though. He's facing Trevor Murdoch. So,
that was the number one contenders match for the national championship.
Oh, I thought they said it was for the. I thought they said it was for the other. I could be wrong.
So this says it's the number one contender to the NWA National Championship.
Okay, I thought they said the other. Regardless, I don't think my thing with Nick Aldis is this. I think he's been wanting to get on this Forbidden Door thing for a minute now, but they didn't want to have his belt even. They didn't want to have the NWA World Title belt even considered as being up for grabs or up for dream matches and all that stuff. Nick Aldis, I think we might see him go and do the Forbidden Door with AEW a little bit. I could see some matches there. I could see they're working. NWA is working very heavily with Impact. I could see maybe Christian Cage versus Nick Aldis. That could be a match that we get for the Impact title because Nick Aldis has a history there too. He could be making his return to the Impact Zone at some point and doing some matches there. So I think this is a way to get the belt off of him so he could go do some Forbidden Door stuff.
Which is what we talked about a few weeks ago when we were doing our house shows. So that I think to me, I agree. I think to me that makes the most sense.
Trevor Murdoch doesn't hold the belt long. Maybe a couple months. They'll probably get him a viable contender to lose it to. I could even see a James Storm.
Yeah, that's who I was going to say, actually.
Somebody, if they were to have Chris Adonis drop, maybe Chris Adonis. Who knows? But I think there are other names there that it doesn't have to be Nick Aldis takes it back for the company to survive. I think they got some good things going. I think Nick Aldis will help the company boom more if he goes and represents NWA in a Forbidden Door type situation. So we might see him in New Japan. We might see him wrestling. I think Impact's the most likely, but there's some AEW matchups that I could see him wanting to have as well. So I think that's where I'm at with it. Is this was to free him up schedule wise.
Gotcha.
Just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
After a brief hiatus, we are bringing back our fan mail segment. So we're going to take your questions. So please send your questions in if you have any. We will take a few of them. We had some that were sent in ahead of time. I'm going to get to those first. All right. So Chris Poshek, I think I pronounced it correctly this time, sent in a question asking Ricochet. He was on fire before Money in the Bank. Does Vince just not like him?
I don't think it's that Vince doesn't like him. WWE's in a very interesting spot right now. Even more so, I think they were already in this spot before the CM Punk return and some of these big names getting dropped and signing to other companies and creating buzz and all this stuff. Bobby Lashley's your world champion. Roman Reigns is your world champion on their respective brands. They are booked themselves into a corner that they can't have either of those guys drop to just anybody. So they're in that struggle now, trying to find people that are believable contenders without hurting them, their push or their run when they become champion. Title picture, because it would be an absolute pointless thing. They haven't built him up to be believable, even though we all know that we would love to see that happen. He can't go to the main title picture, so he kind of gets stuck in this mid card. The problem is when you have a guy lose in the mid card so much, and you give him a little push here, like they literally pushed him into Money in the Bank, and we would have probably considered him a top 3 to win it, just to have him go back to barely ever wrestling again. The fact that crowds are back, Ricochet's an instant crowd pop. The crowd likes him. He's an easy face to get behind. I don't understand why they're not using him. My prediction would be this. When they do the draft, the brand split, the shakeup, whatever, you will see him get moved to a different brand. I think he'll go to SmackDown, and he'll get his mid-card push for a title on SmackDown. I think you'll see him, if the Intercontinental title stays over there, you'll see him become IC champ because he's already been United States champ. I think they'll give him an IC run. And I could honestly see him getting paired in a tag team again and becoming tag champs with somebody. We'll see if that actually happens, but there are options, I should say.
Yeah, and you pretty much said everything I was going to say. I don't really have anything else to add to that. So the next 2 questions come from David Tilley. The first one is really addressed to both of us, but primarily you. He asked, Cole, who would you consider to be seen as top adversary?
Ooh, that's tough. For me, I would say Edge.
I agree.
I think Edge and him had just so many run-ins with each other that I don't think there's another name because of how many times they fought each other. You could probably make an argument for like Triple H. And you could probably make an argument for Randy Orton. I think some people would want to say The Rock just because of the iconic promos and stuff. CM Punk maybe a little bit, but I think for me, Edge is the one that sticks out the most just because of how many times they crossed each other's paths.
Yeah, and I have to agree. He actually added, he said, Alex, not bothering to ask you about Flair because I know it's Steamboat. I actually responded to him and said, it's actually not Steamboat. It's Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
everybody would want to say Steamboat just because of the iconic matches, but
I mean,
we're talking about adversaries. How like the storyline from start to finish, how that came about.
Yeah. The other question he asked, would AEW benefit from a developmental federation more like OVW than NXT? If so, who do you think would benefit? I could see the Varsity Blondes as tag champs in a developmental federation or territory. I don't think they need one.
Oh, you mean like an NXT to the point of like they have their own titles and
yeah. I don't think they need one.
I think they need to get rid of what they already have.
I was about ready to say, I think if they went that route, then they need to get rid of AEW Dark and Dark Elevation and all this other.
I'll say this. Actually, no, I won't. I'm going to save that because it's probably an unpopular opinion.
Cool.
I'm going to save it.
All right. Let's go to the questions on the live chat thread. Thomas asks, how much longer is WWE going to push Nia? Oh, I thought we were done talking about this.
I wouldn't consider it a push.
That's all right, Tom. Hold on. I got to finish this question. How much longer is WWE going to push Nia? She is horrible and an accident waiting to happen.
I don't consider her getting pushed, though. Like, let's evaluate the word push, because push means that they're actually going to put the belt on her. That's not happening. The fact that she's got a match or two here or that, like, let's talk about the 90% of wrestlers who shouldn't have that. Like,
right.
Doudrop and Eva Marie are getting a push, if that's what you're calling, because they made it on TV. Like, but you have Toni Storm, who's been called up to SmackDown, and I haven't seen her since. Let's talk about what push means. Just because she has some matches on Raw, she fights, Charlotte, she might be on the pay-per-view. I wouldn't call it a push. A push means she's going to get the win.
I would answer the question with another question. How much longer is she going to be employed with WWE?
I mean, again,
she's probably not going to get let go. I mean, let's just be real.
If you're that sold on her size and all these different things that would be attractive traits to have in a women's wrestler, because she is different compared to most of the women's wrestlers on the roster, you'd think you would sit down and hone her skills. Like, I've said that a lot, but if you're this sold to the point that we're not going to let her go. We're not. She's too tied family-wise to some things. She's too connected to us.
Right.
We're not going to let her go. Let's sit her down. We take Keith Lee off TV because we didn't think he was ready.
Yeah. No kidding.
Let's sit down Nia Jax and let's say, hey, we're gonna hone your skills. We're gonna sharpen you. We're gonna make you better. And when we make you better, then we're gonna push you to the moon. We're gonna take you all the way to the top, because then you're gonna be ready for this, and you're not gonna injure the rest of our roster.
Yeah.
Which, again, I don't think it's on purpose, and that's the problem, is that when you see this many accidents happening, you would think as an official, as somebody who wants your product to look good and wants the rest of your product to be successful, because if you don't have other women's wrestlers, there's no one for Nia to wrestle anyway. So, you would think you'd want to protect your other wrestlers a little bit better.
You would think. Jeremy asks, is this going to be the end of Jericho on Sunday? I'm not sure the context of your question. I won't give predictions because we'll get to that later. If you mean if this is going to be the end of his full-time wrestling, I actually do think so. I think he'll still wrestle. He'll probably do kind of similar to what Sting does, but given his age, given the fact that, he's doing commentary for Rampage, or I think that's the direction they're going, given his touring schedule, he'll probably still wrestle maybe 1 or 2 matches, maybe even 3 per year. But after this match, I do see him really slowing down his in-ring schedule, for lack of a better way of putting it. Any thoughts from you?
I'll wait.
Okay, fair enough. The next question, I'm going to at least read it, but I want to save what I'm going to say about it until later on. Rusty asks predictions on Adam Cole. I'm going to save my answer till later. You can as well if you want.
Predictions or want? Because
we already know what you want him to do.
I think the prediction is still. I'm gonna be real. I just don't see him in AEW. I don't. I know I get all the factors, and if he ends up there, it naturally would make sense if you just want to be happy. But I think the bigger career for him is in WWE. I still think that. I still believe that. I think prediction-wise, he'd be a fool if they've offered him any kind of a lucrative deal from WWE to not take it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that I think he re-signs with WWE.
All right. Mark asks a really great question. He asks, how out of all of the releases, who do you think WWE should try to get back? I mean, the first thing that pops in my mind is the Iconics, which isn't happening now because they just recently announced that they're doing they're going by inspiration now with 2 eyes. They're doing a tour, whatever that looks like. I'm not really sure, but so that's probably out of the question. If we're going off of who they should sign that would be available, I mean, I don't think it would hurt to try to bring Strowman back. But at the same time though, I almost feel like I say that, but I almost feel like Strowman needs WWE more than the other way around.
I think it's going to really benefit Strowman to go somewhere else, honestly.
Maybe do like a Drew McIntyre type deal.
I really think that's going to be what happens.
It makes sense.
I'm going to be real. The more that I've looked at the releases and stuff, the more that I agree with a lot of them. Like, if I'm evaluating saying, you know what, we're spending a lot of money. The mistake that WWE made is they signed everybody when they did to try to keep them away from AEW, realizing there's no possible way to do that. So what they've done is kind of created a problem for themselves and a problem for AEW now. Because now there's all these free agents that when AEW was starting, they probably would have signed some of these guys versus some of the guys they have. But now they don't have a spot for some of these guys, so they're like, you know, we can't sign everybody. You know, I think the statistic is they've signed like 15 of the guys that have been by WWE. There's probably another 10 to 15 you can make arguments that could have signed at a better time when AEW was first starting, but now they've added so many people that they're like, you know, we really just don't have a spot for you.
I want to clarify something real quick. So William says Bray Wyatt. My answer was also based on
who would want to come back?
Yeah, I mean, based on that there not being any kind of pre-release dissension or disagreement, and that was kind of the rumor that Vince and Bray just had not gotten along recently. You can speak on that. I actually got to step out for like a minute or two. I will be right back.
I'm kind of back to there's a lot of names that I just felt like it made sense that they let them go because they either weren't getting over, they were paying them way too much money to not be who they were supposed to be or not live up to the hype. To answer the question, if I had to, Ruby Soho's a decent one, Mark. I that name crossed my mind. I think I would say Bobby Fish though. I think letting Bobby Fish was kind of one of the names that I felt like that they could have gave a shot to in the singles card on NXT. You know, they're doing it with Kyle O'Reilly. They're doing it with Roderick Strong. Both of them are doing very well in that regard. And I felt like he had he had the potential to do the same thing, and you could have kept them around. And again, if how I feel is true, Adam Cole signing back with WWE and being on SmackDown, there's always the potential to bring the Undisputed Era back on the main card. So you let those three kind of get themselves over, and on NXT, and then eventually when you're ready, when Adam Cole's kind of ready for his major push on one of those factions, you could bring them all back up. So Alex just got back here. I think the name that I'm going with is Bobby Fish. I think I would have kept Bobby Fish or re-signed him and brought him back.
That's a good one.
And let him kind of get the same kind of singles push that they're giving Roderick Strong and giving Kyle O'Reilly, like letting him get like some singles kind of push out there. Again, if Adam Cole does re-sign with them and goes to SmackDown or Raw, when they're ready to push Adam Cole, they could always do an Undisputed Era reunion and bring them all up and do that. So I think there was a lot that they could have done with Bobby still that they didn't really even give a chance to. So I think Bobby Fish would have been my pick.
I do have one more, and he's been away for quite some time. And I didn't even think about this until someone on the chat thread mentioned it. I wouldn't mind seeing Kennedy back in WWE.
I probably would have said that 5-6 years ago. I at this point in time, he's gotten up there in age to where I'm like, I've seen some of the matches and I'm like, he's not where he used to be.
Well, you know what? They've got Goldberg, so
I would have argued Carlito when Carlito made his little mini return. I was really hoping he was going to stick around.
I was surprised he didn't, even for like a backstage role. But I mean, he looked really good. So
he looked great in the ring. I was really hoping that they were going to keep him around.
No, I agree. Thanks, guys, for the questions. Please keep them coming. We will read these hopefully just about every single week, depending on how much we have to talk about. But nonetheless, we're going to transition.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
So I want to let you guys know, if you don't already know, that you can check out the Going Broadway podcast. We are live every single Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. You can check us out via Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can also check us out on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are now back up on Apple, Google, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, all your favorite podcasting platforms. And if you go to check out one and we're not on it, let us know, and we will work on getting put on that platform. But if you can't catch us live, again, all of our shows are archived on our social media platforms as well as those podcasting platforms. Speaking of our social media platforms, they're scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. Facebook.com/GoingBroadwayPodcast, Twitter.com/GoingBRDWYPod, Instagram.com/GoingBRDWYPod, and YouTube.com/GoingBroadwayPodcast. Please do each of these four things if you haven't already. Please like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and do a fifth thing. Also, make sure you hit the notifications button so you're alerted when we go live on Facebook and YouTube. If you do each of those first four things, you will be getting 4 entries into our 3 free belt giveaway that we're still going to do once we get to 5,000 Facebook likes. We're still about 45 to 50 away. We're super close, guys. So invite your friends, your family, invite your enemies too. Whatever you want to do. But just let them know we're doing a free belt giveaway. 3 belts. Once we get to 5,000 Facebook likes, you'll get 4 entries if you do all 4 of those. Just to clarify on the rules, all of the first 5,000 Facebook likes and all of the follows we have on Twitter and Instagram and all of the subscribers we have on YouTube, at the time that we get to 5,000 Facebook likes, everyone will get those entries into the randomizer drawing that we will do. Once we get to 5,000 Facebook likes, it'll be on the podcast like right after we get there. So let's say we hit it on a Saturday. We're going to do it the following Wednesday. So be sure you tune in. Be sure you invite your friends. Be sure you do all 4 of those if you haven't already. And if you don't have, if you don't have an Instagram account, just make one, just so you can get that extra entry. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/GoingBroadwayPodcast. It just finished scrolling across the bottom of your screen. We do have a Patreon page with 4 different tiers you can choose from if you'd like to become one of our monthly financial contributors. We would sincerely appreciate it. We do have different tiers that have their own perks and benefits. Some of those include additional giveaway entries into that belt giveaway that we're going to do, as well as future belt giveaways. You can benefit from discounts on your Going Broadway podcast merch purchases. You can get free merch as well. And speaking of those, I'm going to throw these up. These are our current WCW tribute t-shirts and hoodies. They do come in the classic WCW purple and gold. They are $25 shipped plus applicable taxes for a t-shirt, $50 shipped plus applicable taxes for a hoodie. And they also come in our Going Broadway podcast black, green, and gray colors as well. So if you're interested in any of those, hit us up on preferably on our Facebook Going Broadway podcast Facebook page. We are still working on getting our store up and running to where you could simply just place the order yourself, and we'll keep you up to date on that. As far as the giveaway that we're going to be doing throughout the month of September, including the one today, you're still going to have to wait. We're not there yet. But stick around. We'll let you know. And let's just press on. So, unpopular opinions. So, if you're new to our podcast, this is where Cole and I give some of our maybe not so popular takes on certain things in wrestling, maybe certain storylines. Anything is fair game. So, tell you what, I'll go first. I'm not on board with the booking of making Trevor Murdoch the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Just not.
Explain yourself.
I just feel like NWA is at its peak right now in terms of popularity, in terms of, getting its name and getting its brand out there. And I don't know if it's the right move to take the belt off Nick Aldis, even if it's for purposes of having him appear on having him appear on AEW or Impact. In my opinion, NWA is very associative with classic, heritage, old school wrestling. To me, your front and center of your company should be your champion, not just someone that is representing you, who is probably the most recognizable name on your brand or on your show, appearing for different companies. To me, they should have kept the belt on Aldis. I don't know how you would have booked the whole career-ending thing. Like, you could have just left that part out altogether and just had it been a standard title match. But I don't agree. I think Nick Aldis should have retained here.
Fair enough. You're wrong, but fair enough. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So what I'm about to say has many facets to it. I don't think that AEW is anywhere close to WWE still, as far as we're going to put ranking systems and all this stuff. I keep reading comments and things, not in necessarily this chat thread, but just in different groups and whatnot. Vince McMahon better be careful, and he better start watching his steps because AEW's coming, and yada yada yada, and this and that. Let's just be real, and this kind of sparks this thought because someone asked, should AEW have a developmental thing? AEW shouldn't have half the stuff they have already. They have. I could compare it to something like this. Marvel has built their cinematic universe over decade, because they've spent time putting in the storylines, building up characters, all this stuff, and the transitions work well and all this stuff. DC was so far behind them that they tried to do all this stuff to catch up, and every single time it fails because they're trying to rush to get to the same level as Marvel. This is how I feel about AEW. I feel like AEW's the mindset is so hard pressed. We got to be able to beat this company out, that we're gonna do this, and keep adding stuff to the plate of, here's all the stuff we're gonna do, and we're gonna beat them out. The goal shouldn't be to beat them out. You're not going to. It's not gonna happen. Elevation is terrible. It's boring. Like, I've tried to watch it more than once. It's not fun to watch. Dark, boring. It's not fun to watch. I'm sorry to tell you all, Rampage, boring. It's not fun to watch.
2 of the 3 Rampages have been underwhelming.
The only thing that's keeping Rampage exciting is they did the Britt Baker and
careful banging on the desk. Our soundboard is very touchy, especially with the bell.
the Britt Baker and Britsburg. That they found a way to get the crowd going for that. Obviously the CM Punk return, whatever. But Christian Cage winning the Impact title. They found a way to have something on the card that was at least decent. But if that's what we're going to do, it's the exact same thing as Raw. If there's only one thing on your card that is exciting to watch, you cannot tell me that Raw was bad then and AEW was good. They both were bad then. The only thing that AEW has going for them is their Dynamites are typically very good. They have a great show, just like I think WWE has one really great show, which is NXT. They have a really great AEW show, and then their pay-per-views are usually, for the most part, pretty good. But if we're going to try to compare, there's no comparison. They shouldn't even be in the same category. They're different. They're different companies. They're different things. They're different takes on wrestling. They're different styles. But I think Rampage is boring. I think Elevation is boring. I think Dark is boring. I'm just not impressed with them at all. So I would hate to see, even if they were to get rid of all three of those shows and bring in a developmental type brand, I think it'd be bad. I don't think it'd be good. They have way too many names. To this day, this is why I don't want to see Adam Cole go there. This is why I don't want to see Bray Wyatt go there. This is why I don't want to see other names go there, because you can tell me all day long they're going to get pushed and, oh, this guy's going to be different.
Time out. I just got to interrupt you real quick, and I'm interrupting you for selfish reasons. William says he's going to be at Dynamite tonight. William, I have a favor to ask you. Can you please private message me, and I can discuss it with you if you don't mind? Again, just had to do that, but sorry, continue.
But that's where, I'm just kind of this mindset that everybody, because AEW has a good one show, Dynamite's a great show. No one's taking that away from them. Everybody's wanting all these names to go to Dynamite, though, because, of course, it's the biggest secondary platform that they could go to. I get it. But they don't have room for all these big names. It'd be different if, a Bobby Fish goes and signs with AEW. I think that would be okay, because he's not so big that you got to put him in the title picture ASAP. Otherwise, what are we doing with him? We've already seen them do it with other names that I've seen so many people complain about, because there's like, oh, they're ruining him here too. They're not ruining him. They don't have a place for him or her.
Right.
They're not ruining people. They're just bringing in too many people at once that all have been misused and not used correctly where they were at. So we want to see them used correctly. You can't use everyone correctly at the same time. That's not how wrestling has ever worked. There's not been a company that has ever used every single person correctly at the same time. You can't have Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior both be champion at the same time. That wasn't possible. Even in WWE, with as many belts that they have, not everybody can hold one. Not everyone can get the prominent push and all this stuff. It can't happen. So you can't tell me that Malachi Black and Kenny and the Bucks and Lucha Bros and Jurassic Express and MJF and Sammy Guevara and Miro, and we could just keep going. John Moxley, Sean Kingston. We could just keep going down the list. All of them can't get pushed to the point of
Who is Sean Kingston?
Sean Kingston. Wow. Eddie Kingston.
I knew who you meant.
All these different names, though. A lot of good names in the company. I mean, it's to the point now they got Paul White wrestling. Like, there's not enough room for all these guys. Adam Hangman Page has been pushed to the back burner for a bajillion time. Like, someone's going to take the hit. And every time you bring in a new name, either they're going to take the hit in the company because there's not enough room for them, or someone that we should have saw gotten their spot or gotten a good place on the card somewhere is going to take a hit because they had to get demoted down. It doesn't work.
So you just gave me a great segue into my next unpopular opinion. And maybe it's unpopular just because people expect that he's going to be like a regular full-time in-ring performer. I don't see it happening. I'm actually on board with Paul White being back in the ring if it is not full-time, just to clarify. I don't want to see him in any kind of title pictures. If it's just like, if it's like 1 or 2 matches per year, I'm all right with it. I'm actually really looking forward to it. Now, I could also retract my statement as far as, him being in the ring full-time if he goes out there on Sunday and looks like he's, the Big Show of old that can actually move around, with, don't want to say move around with ease, but you know what I'm trying to say, like
right.
Moving around well for a big guy. he does look fit. I mean, he's obviously been in the gym and everything. I don't expect him to have a 5-star match. I'm not getting at that. But I don't understand the pushback of people I've seen on social media just be like, he has no right to be in the ring. He's taking a spot from someone else. I'm okay with it if he's not taking a spot, if that makes sense. If they don't push him in the title picture, but that's my response now. If he goes out there and it just looks really, really good and he wants to compete in the ring and AEW is okay with him being physical without risking injury or, risking his, spot of commentating on Dark Elevation, which, we've already said what we think of that is neither here nor there. If he goes out and has a good match and everyone's on board with it, if he looks good, then I could possibly change my perspective on him, being more full-time and being more in title pictures, if that makes sense. But again, if he goes out there and if it's just a one-off, I'm still okay with it.
Name a match in AEW you want to see him have.
That I'd want to see him have?
Yeah. Name a wrestler.
I'm not saying he'd have 5-star matches with people, but again, I mean,
I can't think of one match I'd want to see him wrestle in AEW.
I mean, you could always do the whole big guy versus big guy thing with him and Wardlow or him and Lance Archer. And again, I'm not saying any of these would be good matches.
I'm just saying they don't. For me, I guess this is an
I think him and Miro could be interesting.
No, I don't see it. I think the thing with QT Marshall.
Sorry, I disagree. No, not Shaq.
Again, there's just really not one. The QT Marshall thing's funny because I think he's gonna knock QT Marshall out with his little
It's probably just gonna be done for comedy. It's probably gonna be a one-off. And that's why I'm okay with it.
I would rather see him come out as Captain Insano, and I could get behind that. But other than that, beyond comedic or the one-off with QT Marshall, where QT Marshall was bullying and he comes out and defends, I'm good on it. I think he's where he needs to be.
That's fair. Your turn. Actually, I have one more, but we'll go back and forth on this.
So the common theme that I keep hearing, we saw the new NXT logo and all this stuff. The common thing I keep hearing with the rumor of no more old guys and no more indie dudes and all this stuff. I think people think NXT is about to take a downward spiral. I'm going to be on the side of I don't think NXT misses a beat. I'm not a fan of the logo change, but it is what it is. I don't think it changes the product any. I was very impressed with the Duke Hudson Kyle O'Reilly match this past Tuesday night, last night. I thought it was really good. I think that the Odyssey Jones looks good. Carmelo Hayes looks good. Trey Baxter looks good. They got some other dudes that we haven't even seen yet. We saw, I texted you, I think it was yesterday, some of the names that had signed just recently to the PC. One of them being one of the Usos, their younger brother, I believe, had just signed. I think he's going to be very good. There was also...
Let's hope he can stay off the booze.
If not a family problem.
Half joking, half serious.
Bull Buchanan's son just signed and it is with the company. They also had that Olympian who was on SummerSlam. His brother just signed with the PC Center. So they have those. There's that Parker Bordeaux that we're still kind of awaiting his return.
They have a good class.
Frankie Monet is kind of making her way up the women's division now, and
which has taken way too long.
There's Kaylee Ray being over there now helps out some too. So I don't think NXT is going to miss a beat. I think if anything, what we're going to start to see is we are really going to start to see stars be created and not see some of our favorite indie stars just be on a more prominent role. And I think that's what we liked, was that we were finally getting to see some of the guys that we liked in ROH and Impact and other companies get more TV time in a bigger spot in wrestling. But now I think we're going to get back to we're going to be creating stars again. And I'm kind of excited for it. I'm kind of excited to see what WWE can do because they've created some really great stars in the past. And I think that they have the potential to do this again. There's a lot of blank canvases, if you will, in the PC Center and in NXT still to this date that I think they could do some really cool stuff with. So I don't think NXT is going to miss a beat. I don't think that them making this shift is wrong of them. If anything, I kind of like the boldness, to be honest with you. The boldness to say, you know what? We've done the indie thing. Yeah, we got some good wrestlers out of it. You know, we were able to bring some guys up that are prominent on our TV now. I don't think they're not going to bring any indie guys in ever again. I don't think that was the point. I think they're saying our focus is not to go get indie guys anymore. Our focus is not to go get the biggest free agent name that we can find. Our focus now is to get back to creating a John Cena, creating a Randy Orton, creating a Batista, creating a Brock Lesnar, going back to those OVW type days where we're going to hone you in here, but now we're going to put you on a platform that's like PC. No one's seeing what you're doing. When we think you're ready, we're going to put you on NXT so people can start to kind of see who you are. And I'm kind of pumped about it. It's really bold in this season of wrestling when there's so much other places people could go and do things. It's bold of them to say we're very confident that we could build our own stars.
Real quick, I don't know if this is supposed to be an unpopular opinion from Andrew. He actually said that I'm hoping Samoa Joe doesn't hold the title too long. I want to address it because I disagree. I feel like that's what NXT needs is a lengthy NXT champion. Now, maybe it is or is not Samoa Joe, but I feel like the NXT championship, just aside from Adam Cole's reign, I feel like it's just not really had that. Not that you need a lengthy title holder to give it prestige, but I feel like that. I just feel like it's been changed a bunch.
It's been a minute since we've had a consistent champion. And I think Adam Cole was kind of the last one that we've had where we were like, man, he's really killing it. You know, Finn Balor kind of got that just because he's Finn Balor. I think Samoa Joe will kind of get that because he's Samoa Joe. But if the ultimate goal is to have NXT be your developmental brand, like I wouldn't be shocked if that was a placeholder for Samoa Joe right now until the draft. And then we see Samoa Joe get brought back up to Raw or SmackDown. That'll be enough months to kind of get him back in the swing of things. And storylines should have shifted by then to where we can kind of find a place for him back on Raw or SmackDown. I think they need to make it more about the developmental guys then. You know, It needs to be Odyssey Jones. It needs to be Kyle O'Reilly or some of these guys that a title run would actually benefit them, especially a lengthy one. You know, if we're going to build somebody up, bring in that Parker Bordeaux guy. If he's supposed to be your next Brock Lesnar, like have him come in, wreck shop, and hold the belt for a minute. LA Knight would be a great guy to put the belt on for months at a time because he's a great heel. He can talk. You know, there's some names on that roster for sure that I believe could benefit from a lengthy title run. It would help NXT, and it would get them ready for something bigger down the line.
Let's go ahead and transition. I had another unpopular opinion, but I think I'm going to save it. Whether I say it now or share it next time we do unpopular opinions, I don't think it's really don't think it's gonna matter too much. I think it'll still hold the same weight next time we do it. So I'm gonna save it. I'm just gonna preview AEW for the rest of this week, leading up to All Out, which we'll do our predictions for shortly. As of now, there's not been anything announced for Rampage on Friday, so I'm gonna just back up and go through the card for tonight. Tonight's Dynamite looks like we've got a few things announced. So we've got a Tony Schiavone sit down with MJF. Shout out to the two-time Dynamite ring winner. This is literally just, whenever I was getting dressed this morning, this is just the shirt that I grabbed off the hanger. So there was no systematic shirt selection for this morning's podcast. We have Orange Cassidy against Jack Evans, which, by the way, I knew that they both did Lucha Underground, but if you've not watched Angelico or Jack Evans when they did Lucha Underground, Those two were crazy.
No,
Those
Lucha
two were
Underground
nuts.
was slept on hard. Lucha Underground has some great. I would say the same thing about Willie Mack, Brian Cage. Like, there's a lot of guys that you need to go and watch Lucha Underground. I don't know if the first 2 seasons are still on Netflix or not, but if they are, they were for a minute at least. Go watch it. It was good.
We have a Jim Ross. This is an in-ring interview with Chris Jericho. We have the Elite, the Jackson Brothers, and Gallows and Anderson against Lucha Bros and Jurassic Express in an 8-man tag match. We have Brian Cage against Powerhouse Hobbs, and we have FTR with friend of the show Tully Blanchard. I'll say more about that later, against Santana and Ortiz in a rematch. Hopefully Cash Wheeler is healed just from that nasty spot. He posted something on his social media just with the gash in his arm from basically getting impaled on that hook. It
was gross.
It was nasty. So, not a bad card tonight. I think they could probably do without. They probably should have somehow consolidated the interviews they're doing with Jericho and MJF.
I would have done a face-off.
Yeah, something like that.
More of a satellite interview for both of them on the screen.
I also don't understand. I mean, I guess I get that it's the whole like Orange Cassidy and that their group stable whatever against Hardy Family Office, but I mean. That does nothing in terms of the lead up to All Out. So I don't understand that placement. The FTR and Santana and Ortiz, I feel like that could have been a good. I feel like this match would have been a good spot for the post All Out Dynamite, if that makes sense. I just feel like that the lead up to All Out should involve more storyline implications for All Out.
I would take it one further and say it should have been on All Out. Their tag match should be on All Out.
That's high praise from you, considering your FTR opinion.
Yeah, but this has been built up too long to have it be on a Dynamite.
No, I mean, that's fair. Definitely fair to say. Let's do our All Out predictions. So as we go through these guys, you can share your predictions as well. I have not forgotten about or slept on the giveaway that we're doing, so you still got to stick around and find out what we're doing. So stick with us, and we will let you know in a bit. So the pre-show is actually going to be the Casino Battle Royale for a AEW Women's World Championship match. So according to this, right now we've got Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa, The Bunny, Big Swole, Julia Hart, Ty Conti, Diamante, Penelope Ford, Red Velvet, Shida, Emi Sakura, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan. There are still 8 women that have yet to be announced because you got to have your 20 plus the 1. Given that there are 8 still yet to be announced, I got to say I don't see any of those 8 to be determined, including the Joker. I don't see any of them winning. So that's quick spoiler alert.
Okay.
Now, we'll both just say I think we can agree that we think that the Joker is going to be
Ruby Soho.
Yes. That being said, give us your winner first.
Jade Cargill.
I agree. My sleeper pick would have been Thunder Rosa because there's been a rumor that she's going to be thrown into the AEW Women's title picture beginning of next year. What I read is that is actually going to be a rekindling feud with her and Britt Baker. But I wouldn't at all be surprised if, given that Britt has kind of made that turn as more of a face character now, almost. I mean, she's still very much a tweener because she's going against Chris Statlander, who's supposed to be the face in that match. I wouldn't at all be shocked if we actually get a Thunder Rosa Jade Cargill program beginning of next year. Now, where that leaves Britt Baker, I don't know, but I agree with you. I think Jade wins this, gets the number one contender spot, actually wins the championship. Maybe not the next pay-per-view. It might not be at Full Gear. It might be at Revolution next year. But inevitably, I think Jade Cargill wins this Battle Royal, wins the title, and then we actually get Jade Cargill and Thunder Rosa, if that rumor is true, going into next year.
Yeah, I think there's some names that we could probably see in the match too. I think we might see Shida. There's a chance we might see Riho. Layla Hirsch, I don't think was announced for that match yet.
I mean, a lot of great suggestions on who we might see.
I could see Camille. I was at Chelsea Green. I could see showing up.
Kylie Ray.
I
mean, at this point, it could be Mickey James could show up for all we know.
Mickey. I was actually going to say Deonna Purrazzo.
Could be.
I could see Deonna Purrazzo showing up at this point. Melina, just because she's Forbidden Door has been open, obviously, with her as well. So there's some decent women's name. I'm kind of excited for the match. I want to see who all comes out because I think there's some really cool things they could do.
Iconics, but I mean, you can't have two Jokers. That's kind of the issue there. I don't think you can do one without the other.
And the thing is some of them don't have to be the Joker. Like some of them can just show up and be like a surprise entrance in the match, and the Joker could be the big name that comes out, which I just don't think there's a bigger name than Ruby Soho right now.
But do you do that given that they come out 5 at a time?
Yeah, because you could do, for instance, for a batch of 5, you could do like Layla Hirsch, Riho, some of these not as popular stars, and then throw in like the Iconics.
So them not come out all 5, but do like in this instance, if the Iconics were coming, they'd still come out together, but do like the first 3, and then like, well, where the other 2 kind of teasing kind of thing,
right? And then
come
the
out.
Music hits, and
that would make sense.
Tenelli Dashwood, that's a good one.
That is a good one. Let's go to the next. Now, this is not in any particular order. This is just how I see it on my end. So, Jon Moxley against Satoshi Kojima. I mean,
I honestly don't care about this match.
I kind of agree. Now, that's not to say it might not be a good, hard-hitting match.
Yeah, I just don't care about it. I'm going to say Jon Moxley wins, though.
I am too. Now, the next match I'm very intrigued by. I hope this is a banger of a match. Pac against Andrade El Idolo. I keep wanting to say Andrade El Idolo. Who do you got in this one?
This one's hard for me because I think they both need the win.
I do too.
And I hate that they kind of paired them up so quickly because it's going to be a great match.
They really, and maybe they did this on Dark or Dark Elevation. I don't know because I don't watch it and you don't either. Maybe these two have already gotten wins previously that we don't know about.
Yeah, but they need to win on TV.
No, I agree.
And that's where I'm like, okay, pairing these two up, even though it's going to be a great match, pairing these two up so quickly when Pac hasn't really been on another guy who's been misused in AEW since he's been there. I'm going to say Andrade. That's where I'm at on it. I think Andrade gets the win. Mr. Charlotte.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I'm going to say Andrade as well. Paul White against QT Marshall. I mean,
I don't know how, unless it's a DQ, how Paul White loses this match.
I'm going to say Paul White.
I'm going to say Paul White.
Let's just do this one, and we'll do all the title matches back to back. Chris Jericho against MJF. So the stipulation is if Jericho loses, he will retire from in-ring competition in AEW. Let's face it, MJF could win, and Jericho could somehow get in storyline. He could get some kind of reinstatement. Like these whole career-ending matches hold almost no weight in pro wrestling anymore. Given that, while I do think he will pull back as far as his in-ring schedule, I am actually going to say Jericho.
Yeah, you're going to have to put your MJF shirt away, buddy, because I'm saying Jericho.
Again, this is just a shirt I grabbed this morning.
Yeah, well, don't grab it on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. I say Jericho wins. You do too. So, maybe I've just not been watching AEW as much lately. Maybe that's a consequence of this, but I didn't even know this was a feud, much less a title match. Miro defending the TNT title against Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, so they've been doing these like vignettes with Miro saying, I want Eddie.
I must have just
and kept saying, Eddie, whatever. This last week, I think Eddie Kingston actually came out and they had a little brawl in the ring. I can't remember if it was Dynamite or Rampage that it happened on, but they had a little brawl in the ring. So I don't see how you could have Miro lose to Eddie Kingston.
I don't either. I mean, especially so.
I like Eddie, but not a believable win for him.
So we have actually said this on a previous podcast. The rumor is anytime there is a new TNT champion that they are getting like their own
title,
their own customized
design,
belt,
right.
their own customized design. They've already had too many versions of the TNT belt. Now, if this isn't a true rumor, then whatever. I mean, that really doesn't hold a ton of weight in my prediction, but I don't see Miro losing here.
Now, you can't have him lose to Lance Archer and then have him
exactly,
or have him beat Lance Archer and then.
Now, granted, guys, our predictions for title matches are always who walks out with the belt. Now, my prediction is that Miro walks out with the belt. I'm not necessarily predicting Miro wins here, although I will say if I had to pick a winner, I would still pick Miro to win this match. I don't see Eddie Kingston winning via count out or DQ or anything like that.
No, I think it'll be a very hard-hitting, like aggressive match, and I think Eddie Kingston's just going to get tapped out, or he's going to pass out. I don't think they'll make him tap, actually. I think he'll just pass out.
The Young Bucks against Lucha Bros for the AEW World Tag Title match in a steel cage. I hope, and I say this half joking but half serious, just because I mean the matches these guys have been insane. I really hope no one gets seriously injured in this match. I'll let you predict who you got in this
What
one.
I want to predict and what I should predict. I'm always going to go with what I want because I don't care. We're not doing this for money. If we were, I'd pick the other. I'm picking the Lucha Bros because I want them to win. Do I think they're going to? No. But I want them to win, so I'm going with the Lucha Bros.
So Lucha Bros is your official pick?
Yes.
To win the tag belts?
Yes.
They are my official pick as well. I think the Bucks lose the belts here. And I hope they do as well.
They need to lose the belts here, but I could see very quickly how this match could turn into them getting screwed out of them again.
Seriously, ninja'd. Yeah, exactly. Ninja'd. Dr. Britt Baker defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Chris Statlander. I mean,
I like Statlander, but they've not built this in a way that makes it believable for me to think she could win it.
That might be another unpopular opinion that I have, and I'll just share it real quick. I'm not on board with Chris Statlander. I never have been.
I like her, but again, they would need to build this storyline better for me to even believe that she could win it.
I agree. So we both agree that Britt retains. Kenny defending the AEW World Championship against Christian Cage. I still don't understand the booking of this entire feud / storyline. You give it to us for free on TV, but then just because it's a different championship, there's no stipulation or no added, it's not a cage match. It's not a 2 out of 3 falls. If it's going to be on pay-per-view and this is going to be one of your marquee matches that you gave us for free on TV 2 weeks prior, you got to make it different somehow, in my opinion.
The only thing that's going to be different about it is the outcome.
Well, yeah, I mean, we both agree that Kenny's going to retain here.
I don't see how you would have him, how you would switch 2 belts over to a different guy.
Yeah. And the last match, CM Punk against Darby. I don't know how you have Punk lose here. It's in Chicago. It's his debut match. Do you think he puts over Darby?
I don't know. The reason I struggle, I really am struggling with this prediction.
Well, let's put it this way. You and I have 100% agreed on all of our predictions so far. If you want to just be different and pick Darby, do it. But
the reason why I struggle with this is that they've built Darby up like for the past like 6 months. Like he's got Sting in his corner. He's like, I'm pretty sure his record is like 11-3 or 21-3 or like, if we're gonna go based off records. I know that they count them, but it's still stupid. But they built him up. He's won like every single match that he's pretty much been in since he's had Sting in his corner. I just don't. He won a 2-on-1 match. I'm supposed to believe that a guy that's been not wrestling for 7 years because it's his home crowd that he's going to come in and wreck shop on Darby. That's where I'm struggling. The only reason why I could say it's Punk is it's his first match back and it's in Chicago. Like that's the only reason why I would say Punk. Is the fans would probably riot and kill somebody if he doesn't win.
I mean, that could be an ultimate like beginning of a heel turn for Darby, which could be
to give him death threats.
No, I'm saying like no. If Darby gets the win here and like pulls heel tendencies during the match because it's Punk's hometown crowd and he needs to get the win and this and that.
Jamie brings a good point. He says Darby. Punk says he's about building the next generation. Do you do that by having a great match and still beating him? I'm gonna say Punk, but I think the booking's actually a bad idea. They should have had Punk go against somebody else.
David Tilley makes a great point as well. This pay-per-view shows just how over full AEW is. Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara not on the card. Luchasaurus not on the card. FTR, Santana Ortiz not on the card.
A lot of names not on the card.
Someone earlier
Hangman Page.
Well, he's out because him and his wife just had a baby. That doesn't matter. Wow, I just sounded like McMahon there. That doesn't matter, pal. We need
none of the Dark Orders on the card. Probably one of your best merch sellers. Not on the card.
And Colt's the hometown guy. Colt Cabana.
I can't believe that. Again, we keep naming people too.
Okay, so we went through the predictions as far as the advertised card goes. Who and you can recap if you need to. Who all do you think we will see? Not that we could. What are your predictions as far as who will make surprise, not returns, but surprise debuts at All Out?
I mean, again, we said Ruby. I think Ruby's there. The issue I have is, one, Punk's already there for his first match. If you have Ruby come out, that would be like your return. I think it would be really dumb of them to bring Daniel Bryan in at this point.
I will say right off the bat, I agree with that statement. I don't think we see him at All Out. I know the rumor has been that he was going to be on the Arthur Ashe Stadium show. Then they moved that rumor up to this pay-per-view since Punk already debuted. I think it's too soon I don't think we're going to get that.
I just think that, one, you would be stealing thunder from Ruby, who you need Ruby to come in hot. Like, you need her to come in and get a pop and people be behind her, because that women's division needs that. That women's division needs another big name. They're starting to get a decent amount of names in there. They need her to come in and be like a big deal.
Yeah.
And so if you have her come out, but then it gets overshadowed with Daniel Bryan being there, I think it would be a bad idea. So I don't think we see Daniel Bryan. The rumor is that Murphy and Strowman are going to Impact, so I don't think we see them.
Mm-hmm.
Bray Wyatt wouldn't be allowed to wrestle yet.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt definitely has a no compete.
I don't think there's a name really other than Ruby. I mean, like, again, I could see some like surprising entrance in that women's battle royal. I don't know if they would be debuts for AEW as more as Forbidden Door type moments, but maybe Tanahashi shows up just at the end of Moxley's match. But
he had a couple people bring up CJ Perry, the formerly known as Lana.
Maybe. I mean, you technically can make the argument for AJ Lee. AJ Lee could technically show up in the women's
that would be stealing from Ruby if she's debuting.
Now, the thing about Ruby is the only reason why I'm hesitant to say Ruby is in her little promo that she dropped, her ticket showed that she was, it said from Florida to New York, I believe, and it was for September 23rd, which is a AEW show that night.
Yep.
I believe it's a Rampage. It might be a Dynamite. I can't remember. It's one of the two. So, like, maybe it's too early. Maybe she isn't debuting here. Her non-compete clause ends, I think, on Friday or Saturday. So her first official match could be All Out. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why people are saying she technically could do All Out, because it would literally be the day after her non-compete ends. So that seems like a better spot for her to debut. But at the same time, maybe that's who they have like Jade Cargill wrestle against for a while to keep her out of her title match with Britt for a minute. You may not see Ruby, and they could have AJ Lee do like a one-off appearance if she's not really looking to wrestle, or maybe it's a Deonna Purrazzo or, some other women that show up in this. Maybe there's not a big name.
Okay.
All that's already a stacked card as it is.
For sure.
So honestly, we don't need a huge return here to make it even bigger. Just put on do the card as is. Like, make it a good card. It's already set up to be a good card. Make it good.
Ooh.
Let it be good.
Saki makes a good prediction. We haven't seen her in a while. Anna Jay. I don't know if she's cleared yet or not.
Anna Jay definitely could be in this match for sure.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you my return prediction. Now this is my. I'd say this is actually my bravery prediction, because usually each pay-per-view predictions that we do, I have a match that's kind of like my bravery pick. Debatable that Lucha Brothers winning could be my bravery pick, but this is going to be my bravery prediction. Assuming he has not or will not sign a renewal contract, I think we see the AEW debut of Adam Cole, baby. And that could probably fit in the unpopular opinion segment as well. But look, what could be more of a swerve and more of an unexpected debut, just because, like, I would almost say that would fly under the radar, because at this point so many people are expecting Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, whatever.
Where would you put him?
Well, see, that's just it. I don't know if you would have him be involved in any of the outcomes of the matches, if he'd come out any, like, post-match, schmazes or whatever. I will say this. I don't think he would just debut, like, as, basically how they debuted, like, Mark Henry and Paul White, where they just announced him. I do think whenever he debuts, whether it's at All Out or later on, assuming he would go to AEW, I think it would be in some kind of a during or post match.
It would need to be very similar to how he came into NXT.
Yeah, exactly. William is really ambitious. He shows up on Dynamite tonight. I don't think no.
That would be the worst. Literally, any debut tonight would be the worst possible time to debut someone.
David Tilley.
I'm disregarding him. Your comments have been revoked for the day. You are not allowed to comment the rest of the show, because that is just uncalled for.
I can see Tony Khan coming out, taking a mic. We have a new debut tonight of a very well-known and popular talent.
And his name is John Cena!
I just need an excuse to play the soundbite. I'm not even gonna play the whole thing.
The day John Cena shows up in AEW is the day I quit wrestling.
He will never go to AEW.
I will quit watching wrestling the day that John Cena shows up in AEW.
I will say this. Jamie says rumor is FTR contract is up. If that's the case, they only did a 1 year or 2 year contract. Anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if we see. Now, I don't know where his placement would be. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ric Flair pop up on the pay-per-view at some point. Just throwing that out there.
It is possible, seeing how Andrade does have a match on the card. He's been in Andrade's corner in AAA.
Yep.
He was just on NWA, so very possible. Very possible.
All right, guys. Those of you that have stuck around long enough for this giveaway that we're going to do, as well as each Wednesday during the month of September, first of all, we sincerely appreciate you sticking around. Today's giveaway is going to be a little different than the future ones. So to give you a heads up, future giveaways for the next, after today, for the next 4 Wednesdays, we're actually going to be doing 3. So I'm going to give 3 different keywords that you'll have to reply to. Like I'll say, reply with the words, whatever. You would reply with that word. You'd have to do that 3 times throughout the podcast. So that means you would need to stick with us basically from beginning to end to be eligible to win. Just to give you a heads up, future prizes that we're going to be giving away does include belts. I'm not going to say specifically what belts they are. I have one down here. I'm actually not going to show it to you. I was going to show it to you, but then I thought, no, I'll leave you guys in suspense.
Why not?
So Cole can confirm there is a belt sitting down here beside me. I'm not going to say what it is.
That is a belt.
But I'm also not going to say when I'm going to give away any belts. All prizes besides the one I'm giving away today will be complete surprises until the winner receives them. But to give you an idea of what some of the giveaways look like,
GCW and Matt Cardona.
Not quite. Belts will be involved. Those belt coins will be involved that I know Hector Garza, our friend of the show, HG3 won one of those recently. Basically, they're basically coins that look like they're giant coins. They're about yay big, about that thick. But it's basically just like the main plate of a belt. Anyway, going to give away some autographed posters, autographed 8x10s. So a lot of stuff that we're going to be giving away for the month of September. However, today's prize, I will pay for one of you guys to watch All Out this Sunday for free. I will completely cover the cost for you to order the pay-per-view. Now, as far as logistics, I'm not sure how that would work. I don't know if I'd have to send you money so you could order it, and I would just trust that you'd use the money to order it. Or if somehow I could get on Bleacher Report or wherever and order it for you. I'll look into all that. But one way or another, today's prize will be one of you guys that will win the All Out pay-per-view for free. So, no, you're not going to All Out. You're going to order it.
You're going to watch it from your house.
From the luxury of your sofa.
You're going to get
or
a
lazy
front
boy
row seat on your couch.
You get to play armchair. Well, it's not armchair quarterback because it's not football. You get to play armchair referee.
Announcer.
Armchair critic, armchair
Commentator.
Armchair Dave Meltzer is what we'll call it.
Popcorn and clip. No.
In your house, All Out, exactly. All expenses paid trip to your couch.
You can go all out from your house. Okay.
So real quick, guys, the key word today, reflecting on my bravery prediction, the key word, now just one word, you don't have to space it out, Bay. B-A-Y, B-A-Y. No spaces, doesn't have to be capitalized. Reply with that. I'll give you guys until 11:05. We're running a little bit late, but that's okay. 11:05 a.m. Central Time is when I will close this. And the good thing is, shipping is not involved here. So if you're international, it's you're just like someone winning here in the States. I don't have to pay for shipping. You don't have to pay for shipping.
Because it's in your house.
In your house. So while you guys are doing that, I just received a little bit, it's not breaking news, but some news has just been released on Braun Strowman. So as of now, the former Braun Strowman is a free agent and is returning to wrestling against an old friend. Fightful Select has learned that Adam Shearer, formerly known as Strowman, will return to wrestling on Free the Narrative 2.
What company is that?
I just think it's independent.
Mm.
So he will battle EC3
Ah.
on Free the Narrative 2. And the subtitle to this is The Monster in Us All. So, interesting news there.
Wonder what he's going to go by. He's not going to go by Adam Shearer, is he? That's
I don't know.
A terrible name. Just call him the Monster at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you called Paul White the Giant for who knows how many years.
It's the Monster.
Another minute, guys, and
oh, that's EC3's own production. That makes sense.
I guess
Same one that booked Dream and they had to cancel him. Braun Shearman? Stop it. Stop it. Might as well call him Lamb Chop at that point. The Black Sheep.
Is it Stwan Bowman?
Stuan Bowman. Just call him Braun. Can you just call him Braun?
All right, guys, it is 11:05. Let's do this. So again, if you're new to our show, I just do 10 clicks, and whoever's name pops up on the 10th click wins the In Your House All Out pay-per-view. Here we go, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the winner of the All Out pay-per-view for free, and you'll have to contact me to officially claim the win, is number 10, Bruce Jackson.
Bruce
Jackson, congratulations. Please contact us via the Going Broadway Podcast Facebook page to officially claim your win. And one way or another, we'll figure out how to get you the All Out pay-per-view for free this upcoming Sunday. Cole, unfortunately, it's about that time. Actually, it is well past time. Any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate it. Make sure you go get that Going Broadway podcast merch. It's comfortable. You want it. You need it. Again, it takes about 6 weeks. It's made to order. So if you're ready for hoodie season like I am, you should go ahead and order those now. They'll be at your doorstep just in time for that weather. So make sure you do that. Also, we have a special guest coming. His name is Tully Blanchard. Check out this clip. That's right. Tully Blanchard will be in studio with us November 4th. That is a special edition of the Going Broadway podcast on a Thursday morning. So you're going to want to be a part of that. We have plenty of other guests that we are working towards having on the show. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to invite those friends to our Facebook page. Let's get those 3 belts out. Let's make sure that this show is the most watched podcast we've ever had live. We'd love to have everybody on for that show. So make sure you tell your friends about it. Promote it to everybody. We want you on for that specific show. So make sure you're here for that. Other than that, guys, it is that time. I leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy All Out this weekend, and we will see you next Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central.
This podcast was a presentation of LightUpMedia.fm.